to the Metal Command Podcast.
Greetings and welcome back to another edition of the Metal Command Podcast. Tony here with you. And again, I always appreciate any support you do give me for this program. So if you like what you see in here on this podcast, by all means, hit the subscribe button. Hit that little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. And if you are following me on any other form of social media, by all means, give me a like and a follow there. Today's show, I have an interview with Stu Marshall. Stu Marshall, of course, is the architect of Empires of Eden, which is a project I participated in for the second album in a row now. The newest album, Guardians of Time, out on Massacre Records. And he also has a really awesome band called the Night Legion. And also is one of the guitar players in the band Deathdealer. Stu, of course, is from Sydney, Australia. Just a lot of fun, really cool dude. Been friends with him for probably now almost 15 years, as crazy as that might seem. But really good guy, and I brought him on the show to talk about all of the projects he is participating in. And I've always said Stu Marshall has probably one of the best guitar tones I have ever heard as well. So with that said, here is Stu Marshall from Empires of Eden, Night Legion, and Deathdealer.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Metal Command Podcast. Tony here with you. And again, I'm joined by one of my favorite people, Stu Marshall. Obviously, I just sang on an album and co-wrote a song with him on this Empires of Eden album. He also is the guitar player in Deathdealer, and also has a band called Night Legion, and has been a part of a slew of other great projects, like Blasted to Static and Ark and Stone and Dungeon, and I don't know if I missed any, but those are the main ones that I know. But it's great to have you on my show yet again, and I'm really excited to have you here today.
Thanks, mate. It's good to see you. For anyone watching, Tony and I are good buddies. We've been mates for a long time, and I love coming onto your show because we always talk about, things that are interesting to both of us. So, yeah, great to be here, mate.
Awesome, man. So one of the things I know that you're excited about, you want to talk about really quick, is you bringing back Night Legion in a different way. I know you parted ways with Louis, really nice guy. Did a really great job on the last record, but obviously that's kind of the big news right now for you, and we'll dig into some other stuff, but talk about the new version of Night Legion coming out.
Yeah, cool. It's kind of the new old version. So for anyone out there that doesn't know, this is the band Night Legion. It's a band I started about 8 years ago in Australia, and the whole purpose really of the band was to create a live heavy metal touring band of my best mates, and that's been the entire ethos of Night Legion, and it came about when Deathdealer was in a hiatus. So the band was formed with a singer called Vo Simpson, who I've been mates with forever, and after a number of years, we released the first album, and we were about to write the second album, and the start of COVID kind of hit, and he is also in a band called Darker Half, so he was juggling two things, and timing wasn't right. So Night Legion then took on a singer called Louis Georgievsky, who's also a good friend of ours and mine, great vocalist. We recorded an album, and then, the next logical thing is that we're going to go out and do some live work. And, everyone has a different kind of focus. Louis is primarily a studio performer, and, we didn't quite work out the live thing moving forward, and there was really no need to keep Night Legion going. So one thing leads to another, and I reconnected with Vo, who showed an interest in wanting to do a one-off show. And I said, mate, what about coming back? And, I've got all these songs written, and a couple of the other guys are really keen to keep it going. And he was super energized about coming back. So we're coming back with Vo Simpson on vocals. He's, as we speak this week, recorded lead vocals for a Japanese bonus track for Empires of Eden for the new album. So we're hitting it full throttle, and we're in rehearsals. By the time this video comes out, we're in rehearsals next week. We're getting some band photos done, and we saw Cole Higginson on guitar. We've got our drummer is Dom Simpson, who's Vo's brother. So we've got the brothers in the band, and our new bass player, Ben Thomas, who's one of my ex-guitar students from years ago. We've known each other for 20 years. So we've submitted for Ross the Boss Tour and Testament, and we'll see how we go with getting those gigs. But there'll be a new album, and lots of energy coming back with Night Legion. And Night Legion is a band that it's no keyboards. It's just heavy metal, head down, power thrash, really. That's what we've been going for, and I think we'll be doing that in the future. Aggressive power metal.
Yeah, sure. And the last album I thought was very, very good. But if I were to describe the album, there's a little bit of thrash mixed in there, but I would really probably make it just a straight ahead, in your face, balls to the wall power metal album is probably the best way to put it. Probably sounds more American than European, in my opinion, but very, very good. A little more aggressive than your typical power metal band as well. So, there you go. Great record.
That's Photo 4 with Louis. And I must admit, American metal is where my heart's at. Bands like Vicious Rumors and even Cage and bands like that were big influences on me. So, a lot of it is kind of, and obviously Manowar,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh yeah. And again, it's probably you just kind of described, sort of how Night Legion sort of sounds as far as what kind of power metal it is, So that's a really good description, actually. So let's move on to the Empires of Eden, Guardians of Time. So this album, obviously, probably if I were to take, in my opinion, probably the best lineup collectively as far as singers go. For me personally, even if you took me out, I would think that. But a really, really great record, from the artwork to the production. I think the quality of the songwriting has been elevated quite a bit on this. And I finally, have able to actually listen to it all the way through. Once I ended up getting the CD and a vinyl copy of this. But let's talk about this album. And you decided to start this project up. I was actually quite surprised when you said you were thinking about doing it again, because I thought it was a thing of the past, per se.
It was dead and buried. So, again, the short synopsis for everyone is Empires of Eden goes back to pretty much 2007. I'd finished in a band called Dungeon and left that band after a pretty big tour with Megadeth, and had all these songs written, but wanted to, really get them out there. And I don't sing. So the snapshot of this project is that I called it Empires of Eden, from the ethos that, everybody wants Eden as far as their world, and the dreaming of those kinds of empires is how we view the world, is the ethos behind it. But it just didn't feel right to have Stu Marshall on the cover, because I have singers writing their own lyrics, writing their own melodies, performing all their own stuff, and having almost zero input from me, which is cool for me. It's artistic. So through a range of smaller labels, released 4 albums. Some of those labels were wonderful people that tried their hardest, but the albums just didn't go the way of an Avantasia for a number of reasons. But we just didn't get the label support or any of the touring support. And my publicist at the time, back in 2016, said, look, this thing's run its course. You should probably think about that. And it hurts to hear that as an artist who's released 4 albums. But I sat with it and I went, you know what, you're probably right. So I left those as were, and on we went. Well, then I re-signed Night Legion with Massacre, Deathdealer with Massacre, and Thomas from Massacre said, look, would you like to re-release these Empires of Eden albums? And I fell off my chair. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I love these albums. They're really passionate for me. And we got Udo Dirkschneider on there. We got Ralph Sheepers on there. We got Mike Vocera. We got Zach Stevens. Like, we got you. We got all these different singers. I'd love it to see the light of day. And he said, well, we really love them. Well, we'd like to do a new album. and we'll give you some money, and that was great. And that's what rejuvenated the Empires thing, is that we actually now had a party that was feeling the love of what these albums represented. Because what is unique about these albums, no one can ever take away the honesty. There's no dollar sign connected to these. So there's some pretty weird stuff on these albums, but it's what the singer wanted to represent. What you're hearing. Mike Viscera, so he sang with Malmsteen and Loudness. He said, look, this is the first time I've ever truly been allowed to just express myself properly, without. And so to hear a singer say that, for me, is incredible, because that's where the art's at, right? Like, you do your thing, Tony. I've never told you what to do or how to do it. I just present you a canvas that I've created with some colors, and you fill the rest in. And that's what is unique about this. So that's why it came back to life, because we had a party. We are re-releasing all 4 albums that have been fully remixed and remastered, that sound current and really powerful. I was never happy with the production. We never had the money, blah, blah, blah. So we're in a good space with it, and it's in good hands currently, even though I don't have the CD yet. I have the LP, but not the CD. So, but I'm real happy with the album, and I think it represents just a musical palette of everything I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it. I'm real happy with it.
Yeah. So I would tell you that, obviously, the better production, I think the artwork is probably, and the layout is probably the best out of any of those records, to say the least. I was blown away when I looked at the LP. I was like, man, this is crazy how good this looks. It doesn't really do it justice until you actually see it in person. And I was still blown away by the layout of this record. The other thing that not a lot of people know about is that I've remastered this for LP. Yeah. I remastered this for streaming, and we mastered it for CD. So each format has its own specially from scratch master. So this be my pet peeve with LPs. They just take a CD and put it on an LP. We haven't done that. So you're going to hear something slightly different in the LP version, which I'm really proud of. And I think that's what we as artists have to start doing, is why should you buy the LP? Well, maybe it's going to sound nicer than a CD, or depending on your setup. So yeah, that's an important thing. I noticed that. And the way that I run if I listen to vinyl, I have a 2 preamp going into the actual stereo coming from the turntable, and it really sounded really good when I put it on that system. Actually, to be honest with you, I have not listened to the CD. I've actually only listened to the LP, which is funny because I have this 2 preamp that just adds a lot of punch to listening to vinyl, and it sounds a million times better doing it that way. And I have yet to listen to the CD. It's kind of a funny thing. So, but I think it sounds good. And, it was an interesting group of people that were on this thing. So David Readman is somebody like a few of the people on here, like Louie's been on pretty much all of them. Darren Smith, it's the first time he sang on one. David Readman singing on it, which I thought was cool. Sean's been on it before. I've been on one before. Jonas Hager. So you had some new people that you brought onto this record. I'm just curious what those specific people, what really made you want to bring them as part of this?
Everything starts off in the most innocent way of, let's talk Darren Smith. So I'm a huge Harem Scarum fan, obsessive Harem Scarum fan. And Pete Lesperance is in my top 3 guitar players of all time. Criminally underrated, one of the best on the planet. And my favorite Harem Scarum song is a song called Saviors Never Cry, which is just absolutely ass-kicking. And, I just thought I'll reach out to Darren, see if he wants to sing on the album. I had some great AOR songs I've written that some of them I sold to Frontiers. So Billy Sheen used some of my material on his album, his last album. And I had this fun song called When Will It End? And I couldn't hear anyone else but Darren singing it. and I reached out to him, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." I fell off my chair. So it's really been around my self-indulgence. I'm a huge David Readman fan. You know, the work that he did in Pink Cream, and then also too the Silent Force stuff he did, and great singer, incredible vocalist, was available, and I had a great song for him. That's actually one of the reasons I have to mention. This is the first time on any of those albums I've got my name on the cover.
Yeah.
Because, I put Stu Marshall's Empires of Eden, because I wrote lyrics and melodies to a couple of tracks off this album. The first one is Darren's song, When Will It End? I wrote that entirely, all the lyrics, all the melodies, and the same thing for David Readman's song. So those two singers were kind enough to sing tunes that had been written for them. So the format of this album had a slight difference to it.
Yeah. I mean, you saw my podcast episode on it. I always thought you should have put your name on there just because you're bringing the whole thing together. That's just my opinion. So
didn't feel right.
Yeah. Oh no, I gotcha. One of the things, and I look at reviews of these albums, I always feel that this project always gets misunderstood. Although I saw a lot less of that this time around. And what is it that you believe is the reason behind that?
Look, the first thing is I respect anybody in the industry that's got to sit there and listen to 5 CDs in a row and make a call. CD reviewers have a tough time. I think, firstly, CD reviewers are used to a single band doing a single album with the single singer. And whenever you do something like Empires, they're expecting it to be Operation Mindcrime, which is not unreasonable. A common thread that runs through the whole album with a theme and all that. And, the second last song speaks to the first song. And that's where I think it's not normal to have an album like I've done, where you've got 9 standalone songs by 9 different singers doing 9 different things.
Right.
And I think that's probably what needs to go out in the press release to reviewers is, this is not that. This is not a concept album that speaks to stories or anything. It's when Rob Rock sings his song, he writes his song his way, and the next one after it has nothing to do with it. So it might confuse a few people. To be fair, on this album, I think we've hit a pretty wide spectrum of styles, right? Like I've gone from, hammer down, heavy metal, power metal opening to AOR to then, balls out thrash. So that might confuse a few people going, what the hell's this guy trying to do? And I get that too. So, but what's interesting with the reviews is some people really, really get it. And, we're getting some 9 and 10 out of 10s and stuff. And then there's a couple of people that just absolutely hate it because they just don't get it. And I respect it all. I don't make CDs for reviewers. I make CDs for people to turn on and want to enjoy their day with. And, if people dig it, great. Not everyone's going to dig it. But one thing I said before, you can't deny there's honesty in the music. And we don't do it for $1. We do it because we're excited about heavy metal. And that's what this is for.
Yeah, I've seen probably the most positive reviews for this album, more so than the other records. And I thought that was actually really cool.
Yeah, and you know what? Everyone watching this, take 5 minutes, go to Spotify and listen to it for free. Check it out. And if you really like it, buy the LP. It's beautiful. It's worth it. It's a gorgeous insert. It's worth your money. And the CD is incredible too. A lot of effort and time's gone into it. And there's some cool merch and T-shirts you can get, and that's how we do it now. That's how, I want everyone to go and check it out for themselves, make your mind up whether you dig it. And if you do, then that's the way to support, but it's that's my
I will tell you, and I'm not exaggerating. You did an excellent job mastering it to LP, to be honest with you. The sound on it was incredible. I almost now feel guilty not listening to the CD yet and then admitting that to you, but no, the LP, in all seriousness, the LP sounds absolutely amazing. And the really cool thing about it is, I have an EQ that's on the actual preamp itself. And I didn't have to adjust really anything. I mean, it just sounded great out the box. But you are right. There are people that do take just a straight digital copy and slap it on an LP, and most people don't realize you have to master it differently for a record as opposed to a CD or even streaming. So but I thought you did a tremendous job on the LP in all seriousness.
Yeah, thank you. That all came actually through pain, because the very first Deathdealer album, War Master, was taken directly from CD and put on LP. And as soon as I played the LP here, I was horrified. I was like, what's happening? And then I realized that it had been compressed even further by the LP process. So, we're in the process of fixing all that up too for the future with the new label. So,
yeah, the second Deathdealer though was mastered for vinyl. Because I'll be honest with you, I have the first one on vinyl. I maybe listened to it once, but I don't remember listening to it again. But I remember when the second Deathdealer album came out, that actually, I was really amazed at how great that record sounded. It really sounded great, and it was mastered specifically for that. So, since we're talking about Deathdealer, let's talk about what's going on with Deathdealer, because that's a band we haven't heard from in a while.
Yeah, there's a lot happening with Deathdealer, and I owe a video on our page to people that like that band. Deathdealer, we've been waiting for the label to make an announcement, right? So we signed a great deal with Massacre Records over 12 months ago. And we have delivered a new album to them, fully mixed, mastered, especially for vinyl, of course. All the album artwork's done. And I've given you a private preview of that.
You have.
I believe it's an extraordinarily special album. We spent 4 years making it, and I was firm saying we're not releasing this unless it gets the right treatment. I'm not putting this album out because we're not Iron Maiden. We're not an A-list metal band. We can't just release an album and expect it to do well. We need the right support. So Massacre got really behind it. And then in other news, it was due out in November last year. It was due out in March this year. Massacre's gone through a business buyout with their bigger company called Believe. Kind of a boring story, but it's just slowed everything down to a point where I've said, no, I'm not releasing this until the business is sorted. So, it could be later this year, we expect. But, Deathdealer is very much alive. The album is there. We almost have album 5 in the can as well. So, lots happening, but just, you put out those silly little statements going, hey, everybody, here's a news update. Nothing's happening at the moment. So, that's a little painful for us, but it requires time. I hope you agree. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, since you mentioned I've had a preview of it, I would probably say it's easily the best album you guys have done, and it is probably one of the most incredible albums I've ever heard. And I think you already know what my opinion of is, because I remind you about it every few months. But I mean, I agree with you because, and I agree with your decision on that, because I really do think this record is that good, where it really needs to have the proper support behind it to get it out there. Because if anybody's listened to the other albums, and let's say they like a lot of the other Deathdealer albums, they don't even know what they're in for when it comes to this. I mean, it's like, I can tell you it's amazing. Let's put it that way. And
this album contains, I'm going to put it out there, I think it contains the longest high scream in history recorded in one take.
Yeah.
And that's when you listen to, say, really good example, Halloween. Do I need to even mention Halloween to you? You're very good friends. The end scream or the end note in I Want Out is one of the longest recorded vocals. What Sean did on a song called "The Dragon of Alagarath" is the name of the song.
Yeah.
It is a single take, and he actually goes higher at the end. So, you know, when we were making this, I think he's even posted video footage of it on Facebook.
I think he has. Yeah.
But look, all that stuff aside, I think songwriting wise, it's powerful. I'm telling your viewers this, and I'm sure they're sitting there going, well, when are we going to get it? So let's talk more about it when it's ready to come out, because I'm immensely proud of it, and but it's got to be handled right, and it needs a tour afterwards as well. You know, we need to be doing shows, and this is part of the reasoning for the delay. But Deathdealer is very much alive, and it's really just about businesses recovering after COVID, right? Like we're back in the swing now.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was thinking of Long Screams. The only thing I could think that even comes close to that would be the Scream Rob Halford does on Blood Red Skies by Judas Priest. I was just thinking about that the other day. If you remember that song off of Ram It Down. Ram It Down is not the most popular album, but
it's my favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite, one of my favorite Priest songs. But I think about that. So, it's interesting. You know, you mentioned recovering after COVID, because, you know, I think when this whole thing ended, everybody just went out all at once, and it's just taken, you know, I have this whole backlog. I mean, bands are putting out albums this year that really would have had them out like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, you know, just because, but everything was delayed. Touring was delayed. Releases were delayed. And, you know, a lot of these bands have albums that might have come out 2 years ago, but they wrote them like 5-6 years ago, you know? So yeah, I totally understand it from the business angle as well. Out of curiosity, aside from the three main things that you've been doing, do you have any other cool projects maybe that we can talk about that you maybe have not announced, or, you know, anything else you're working on?
Yeah, really nothing else, mate. It's really focusing on Night Legion at the moment to get us back up and running after rehearsals and some photos and things. So that's primary focus for the next 6 months. Then Deathdealer, you know, I've got a Japanese bonus track that's coming out. We're just signing with the Japanese label at the moment for the new album, which is exciting. So you being a part of that album, that's going to get proper release over in Japan. I'm off to Japan in 6 weeks on a holiday, but I'm seeing a whole bunch of industry friends while I'm there. So, that's pretty much it at the moment. I'm actually enjoying what I would call a bit of downtime, even though I'm still working on music. It's just nice to, you know, I've had a bit of a break.
Right, I gotcha. So I know you always have a lot of songs written. So what do you have more of, songs written or guitars? You're like, which one is it? Because you got a lot of guitars in the background, and I'm sure that's not all of them, but I know you're a big collector. Yeah,
I've probably got more guitars than I have songs written. But I've got about 15 fully finished songs in the can at the moment that I'm talking to singers about for the next Empires. And then I've also written a whole kind of doom album. I went into last year, I got a real doom inspiration and wrote some fun riffs. So lots of material there. When the Japanese label hit me up about a bonus track, I'm like, well, that's easy for me. I've got plenty of material. So I've just had Vo working like an absolute weapon for the last week, writing and recording vocals, which was a massive feat. So credit to him and his talent.
And he's doing the bonus track on the Empires of Eden for Japan, correct?
Yeah. Which is a nice tie-in, because we're relaunching Night Legion, and you know it's good that people over there get to hear him.
Sure. How far are you? Have you guys started recording for the Night Legion thing? Have you started recording any songs for that yet, or is you just still okay?
So we're really at first rehearsal with the new the reinvigorated band next week. And luckily for Night Legion, I'm in a band now with guys that all write. You know, they all write songs. So I've just put the call out, start compiling ideas, and everybody can have a voice, you know, in this thing. So
cool. So speaking of Night Legion, I know you have a mainly touring band over there, but have you ever thought about bringing that band over here? Maybe trying to play some shows in the States.
Definitely. This is a new focus with this collective. The guys are very keen to get to Japan, but also to, I've got many, many friends in America. I'd like to come to the States for a couple of weeks and do some club shows and things like that. So that's on the cards. It's really just about formulating what those plans look like. I think for us, it'll be write songs, re-sign a deal, whether it's with Massacre or someone else, and then plan a run of shows around that new album.
Yeah, definitely. I just think it would be cool to have that band over here. And, you brought up Deathdealer doing shows. I would love to see a lot of shows with them as well. I mean, that would just be, it's such an incredible band, and it's such a talented group of people that it would just be great to see that, on stage, at some point here, down in the future there. So,
well, yeah, like we did some shows in the States originally. We played Europe and had a great time over there. Sean, are you watching? Sean Peck, Earth to Sean. Sean's one of the great vocalists on the planet, one of the hardest working guys. But we'll reignite the flame to get that thing moving. And, I love working with Sean, and let's get the album out and see what happens.
Oh, absolutely. So, really exciting stuff, to be honest. You've had a lot of great stuff. The one thing that I've noticed in a lot of the work that you've done in this, last 3 years is that, the production quality of the albums has gone up quite a bit, actually. As far as the quality of the recording. One of the things that people have always said to me about you when they listen to, and I hear this from a lot of guitar players, they love your guitar tone. I mean, I hear that comment so much. Like, if anybody ever talks to me about you and they've heard stuff you've played on, they absolutely are like, this guy's guitar tone is phenomenal. And how long did it take for you to dial something like that in?
Yeah, it's so weird. It's, if you ask Ross the boss, it's all here, right?
Yeah.
It's all in the hands, and part of that's true. Working with Ross in Deathdealer, I've had the privilege of watching him night after night, and he can play any guitar into any amp and still sound like Ross. I've got a tone, I guess, that I go for, and I think some of it is in my note choice and how I attack the strings, and
sure.
But a lot of the time I'm using different plugins or amps or different guitars, and I still sound like me. So I think a lot of that just comes with being an old fart, and having played since I was 7 years old, and finding a bit of voice, my voice. Like, I play like me. I'm really, really crap at playing like other people.
Yeah.
When I've sat down to work out Randy Rhoads solos and stuff, I'm just like, I just can't get it. So I think a lot of it is just, 40 years of playing guitar.
Yeah.
And playing a certain way. I hear melody before I play. So kind of instantaneous. So, like, if you send me a piece of music, I'll hear the melody and then I'll just play it. But they're my melodies and how I would play them. So that's probably what is crossing.
Yeah, I can relate to that because, again, you send me something. I mean, I've done this with you a couple times. I just already hear what I'm going to do, and it's kind of just like that. And do you have like a setup or anything that you really like to use, or do you like to experiment with different stuff?
Yeah, like gear wise, like this is my number one. It's actually one of one. So ESP Japan made this for me. And we spec'd it out and designed it at the Tokyo ESP custom shop.
Sure.
EMGs into a high gain amp, off we go. it's that simple. So that's what I like. But I can kind of pull a tone out of anything, man. Like, We've got a Marshall, cool. We've got an Engel, cool. If we've got a Mesa Boogie, cool. It's no big deal. And but I do like high gain pickups. Probably compensates for all the mistakes that get made. So, lots of delay.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. It's always, because again, it's funny because I remember when I was going on and posting songs off of this Empires of Eden album, and like people would write me and say, dude, you got to ask that guy how he gets his guitar tone. And that's literally like one of the biggest comments that I get, you know, I'm like, well, what do you think of the songs? It's like, but what they think of the guitar tone, and a lot of it's guitar players, people that, play quite a bit. But it always fascinates me when, some of the first comments come in, but it's really cool. Actually, it's nice to explain that. And a lot of times too, it's hard for these guys, even yourself probably, to really truly explain, like, how do I get this right? It's just one of those things, you're so used to doing it, but then you think about it, and you're like, well, you can explain it, but again, only you know how you get your sound, or only James Hetfield knew how he got the sound on Ride the Lightning or something like that. It's kind of one of those things.
And interesting too, you talk about that sort of undefinable quality. A lot of it has to do with attitude and aggression and the gaps between the notes. Like there's a really weird thing, no one else on the planet plays like Ross the Boss except Ross the Boss, No. And there's a reason for that, because when he plays the guitar, he assaults the guitar. He's and so I think a lot of that has to do with just the individual. Yeah,
and I can tell on the Deathdealer albums pretty much which solos are you and which are him. It's very evident, just like I can tell with a lot of bands, just knowing somebody's style and just how they play. And a lot of times too, when you listen to guys and the way they play solos and stuff like that, you can always tell it's them. Like, sadly, John Sykes passed away recently, but I could always tell anything that dude played, I knew it was him. It's just the way that he sounded on the guitar. And that dude, and a lot of people are very talented, but they have there aren't many people with a distinct sound. Ross is definitely, I agree with you, one of those people.
Yeah, let's face it, that's the sign of a great guitarist, is the one that can produce their voice. And John Sykes definitely had it. I love playing or trying to play Sykes riffs, but it never sounds like John. So and his solos are pretty crazy, especially like even the Whitesnake album he played on. But when you listen to like Thunder and Lightning by Thin Lizzy, it's like, damn, like how the hell did he play that? Oh, yeah. I mean, and notwithstanding the fact that he did it on a 78 Les Paul, which I have one behind me. I've got a Les Paul custom here from 78. And things like a bus, like shredding on something that is, huge, 9 pounds.
You have a lot of this great music that you've done over the years, and it always seems to not really reach as big of an audience as it should be. Do you find it difficult? I mean, what's like one of your biggest obstacles you feel in getting a lot of this stuff out here? Is it being from Australia? Is it the internet? That's that. Yeah. How do you view that?
Oh, look, mate, I don't know. I think I always do believe that the cream rises, and if people don't think of someone as an A-lister, well, they're probably just not that good, or they haven't had the financial backing to elevate them.
Right. I'm not
gonna sit here and make excuses that because I'm in Australia or whatever. I think at the end of the day, a select number of people really dig it. And that's probably what it is.
Right.
I'm not making money out of music. I have a day job, and I always have, and I always will. So that actually frees me up to make more honest music the way I want to make it.
Sure.
Without having to worry about, do I need to chase this trend or that trend? So, and maybe it's just not that good, Tony. Like, we get it. A few people get it. So that could be all the reasons. But, I look at bands like Primal Fear, Testament, all these bands that I think should be as big as Maiden or Priest or whatever. And there's a whole range of reasons for that. So, but I don't protest to know what that is. I just keep making it, and people want to keep hearing it and buying it. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, I got to tell you, it was fun to get some updates. I'm really looking forward to this Night Legion thing. I think that, I cannot wait to hear what that record sounds like. The last album I thought was incredible. I thought the songs were really well done. I liked it a lot better than the first album. So it'll be interesting to hear this next one whenever you guys record this and get this out. But I'm really honestly looking forward to that next chapter of that band again.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, we're pumped.
Yeah, because I think you have something really special with that group. You kind of found something with that, and I think that I like Vo's vocals on the first album, so I'm really interested to hear that.
Yeah, he's already telling me how much better he is now as a singer. I think that was 7 or 8 years ago that album came out. So, we're pumped, mate, and I thank you.
Awesome. Any last words to say to any of the fans that'll be checking this out?
Yeah, look, take some time on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you're connected to and check out the music. If you like it, drop by the socials, Empires of Eden. Real easy to find. And, more music's coming out, and thank you for your time.
Hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching, and if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video, and if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.